I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, the son of an immigrant who came to this country from Poland at the age of 17 without a nickel in his pocket, never made a whole lot of money, but was a very proud American because this country gave him and my mom the opportunity to send their kids to college. I believe that this country has enormous potential if we have the guts to take on the big money interests who dominate our economic and political life. And I disagree with Secretary Clinton in the belief that you can get money from Wall Street, that you can get money for a super PAC from powerful special interests, and then at the end of the day, do what has to be done for the working families of this country. I just don't accept that. What I believe is that this country, if we stand together and not let the Trumps of the world divide us up, can guarantee health care to all people as a right, can have paid family and medical leave, can make public colleges and universities tuition-free, can lead the world in transforming our energy system and combating climate change, can break up the large financial institutions, can demand that the wealthiest people in this country start paying their fair share of taxes. And we can do that when millions of people stand up, fight back, and create a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. That is what the political revolution is about. That is what this campaign is about. And with your help, we're going to win here in New York. Thank you.
Thank you. Secretary Clinton. Secretary Clinton.
Thank you.
So a question has arisen, are we still a democracy? One of the guys who actually asked that question is me, because I keep talking about how money has corrupted our politics and that at the national level, we don't really have a functioning democracy anymore because our politicians aren't listening to us. But now some Princeton researchers, Martin Gilens and Benjamin Page, actually went back and did a study on this issue. They studied 1,779 different policy initiatives between 1981 and 2000. They then compared those policy changes, the ones that they studied, with the expressed opinion of the United States public, comparing the preference of the average American at the 50th percentile of income to what those Americans at the 90th percentile preferred, as well as the opinions of major lobbying or business groups. I'm on pins and needles as I'm reading the beginning of this story to see how it turned out. Well, I have bad news for you guys. Quote, the preferences of the average American appear to have only a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact upon public policy. Well, that is devastating. It's not a small little issue, campaign finance reform. It's not like, oh, well, look, I have strong feelings about war, which makes sense, or I have strong feelings about the environment, which makes sense. This is about our democracy. So your opinions on war, taxes, all that stuff is irrelevant if you don't live in a democracy. If you live in an oligarchy, they don't give a damn about your opinions on those issues anyway. There's only one issue. Who controls our politicians? And if you do private financing of elections, you will have the people who gave those large donations who control our politicians. That is obvious. It's a matter of logic, and now, through this study, it's a matter of fact.
Bernie Sanders, we're just a couple of weeks away from the Iowa caucuses, and by most folks' accounts, ready to plunge into the political process, the process of electing a president here in the United States. You're mayor of Burlington, Vermont. From your perspective in that job, What kind of a person would you like to see as President of the United States?
Well, I would like to see somebody who has the guts to begin to stand up to the people who own this country, to recognize that in our nation today we have an extreme disparity between the rich and the poor, that elections are bought and sold and controlled by people who have huge sums of money. So my first concern is to have a president who has the courage to look reality in the face and say that we need some radical changes in this country so that every American can have the opportunity to have a decent standard of living and live a decent life. I also, when we talk about presidential politics, I always have a little bit of a problem because I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican. In Burlington, Vermont, we have, I think, the only three-party system in the United States of America. My dream would be that we would have a strong third-party movement in the United States composed of working people and minorities and women groups and all of the people who are presently disenfranchised, though that doesn't exist right now. So my options are somewhat limited. But essentially, I would like to see somebody who speaks for the underdog, for the people who don't have decent health care benefits, somebody who understands that in America today 50% of the people don't even vote anymore, and the vast majority of that 50% are poor people and working people who have given up on the system. So essentially, I would like to see a candidate who has the guts to have a vision that America could be a land for all people, not just the land controlled by the super rich.
Police brutality running wild in New York. Americans dragged, punched, and pepper sprayed.
Woman on the ground screaming, crying after getting assaulted brutally by police. Disgusting.
Over 80 people were arrested over the weekend at peaceful anti-Wall Street protests. Among them, Eric, beaten up and held for 36 hours. The deep scars on his hands speak for themselves. The activist is shocked by the price Americans are paying for speaking out about injustice.
The police response has been overly violent and brutal. They maced 5 women. They collected them around a net and then maced them, and they weren't even warned. The captain stepped up, maced their faces, and then tried to run away and avoid cameras that were around.
The Occupy Wall Street movement was launched to kickstart America's own Arab Spring.
This is a historical moment. This is the beginning of the people's revolution. This government is not working in the best interests of the people or this nation.
But for now, it remains a fringe movement, with the anticipated 20,000 people yet to gather.
It'd be nice if it grew into something like what happened in Egypt, you know. But, you know, that might be wishful thinking, you know, because the people here are completely brainwashed.
It took America's mainstream media a week to catch up with the demonstrations. Protesters say some networks deny them coverage.
CNN and Fox, I'm really disappointed. And yesterday, the police responded in huge, extreme brutality. And we were calling them constantly, and they shut down their headquarters. They said anything we mentioned Occupy Wall Street, they'd hang up on us.
Others say the outlets that are covering the Occupy Wall Street rallies are not doing nearly enough.
Whispers, couple things. There's, you know, but it's... People don't want people to know that this is going on. Are you kidding? There's been coverage, but it's like, you know, oh, a bunch of people, done one article.
Alternative news sources are the ones spreading the word far and wide.
It's actually expected that the mainstream media would not cover, you know, this type of movement. You know, what would they, right? You know, they actually benefit from the system, you know, staying the way it is. So I'm not surprised that there has been a complete blackout from the media.
Twitter and other social networking websites are bringing people out. As 3 years into a recession, Wall Street has still not been held accountable for triggering the common American's worst nightmare.
Wall Street has ripped off the American people to no end. Mortgage fraud, foreclosure, I mean, income disparity throughout this country, it's just off the hook. And the main reason I'm here is because of the corporate media blackout, the mainstream media blackout. You're only getting the truth from alternative news sites.
1 in 6 Americans are living below the poverty line.
Unemployment is at a, you know, this is the highest it's been in a generation, and, you know, people just can't find jobs. So we have to send a message. We have to send a message. We're paying attention, and we want things to change. We want the system to change.
But the system is far from ready to change. It is yet to start taking people's outrage seriously. While demonstrators marched the streets of the financial district, bankers shamelessly toasted life with champagne right in their faces.
The U.S. political and corporate elite embraces uprisings when they're far from American soil. But when similar events take place at home, bankers, politicians, largely the media, and many Americans turn a blind eye. While the financial district erupts with brutality and outrage, the rest of New York goes about its business as usual. Anastasia Churkina, RT, New York.
I can tell you just from 40,000 feet that some of the most damaging behavior on Wall Street, in some cases some of the least ethical behavior on Wall Street, wasn't illegal. That's exactly why we had to change the laws. And that's why we put in place the toughest financial reform package since FDR and the Great Depression.
That is so wrong on so many levels. Oh, what they did wasn't illegal. I mean, I don't tell the Justice Department what to do. It's just a wild coincidence that they've prosecuted almost no one among the top banks, who happened to be, in a wild coincidence, some of my top donors in 2008. Goldman Sachs, in fact, was his #1 donor. These are all wild coincidences.
Obama turned quietly to Wall Street funders with deep pockets like J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and Citigroup, as well as General Electric and other defense contractors, computer giants, and the pharmaceuticals industry, Big Pharma, which reversed years of supporting Republicans, giving Obama 3 times as much as McCain. Few of Obama's supporters complained at the time. His victory in the national election was applauded across the world. A new America was here. Though conservatives would absurdly decry Obama as a socialist, by far the biggest winner in the election turned out to be Wall Street.
But when he actually says, hey, you know what, they did nothing illegal, well, that just isn't true. Countrywide said in internal emails, Angelo Mazzillo, the head of the company, said, why are we selling this stuff? This stuff is toxic. Boy, we better dump this stuff, get rid of it, right? Oh, it's garbage, right? Meanwhile, he tells people out in public, oh, it's fantastic, we're in great shape, you should definitely buy this thing that we're selling, it's fantastic. Well, that's illegal, that's fraud. It's fraud 101. Same thing with Goldman Sachs. Carl Levin, senator from Michigan, exposed them. Where they write in their internal memos, this is garbage, I can't wait to bet against it. Then they turn around and bet against their own clients. This is fraud 101. Historic reform, come on. You've heard me go through this before. They didn't touch anything on derivatives, basically. They can still do the derivatives trading. They don't even have to list most of it. They didn't break up the big banks. They can still gamble with depositors' money. They just call it historic.
Have you been disappointed or pleased with President Obama and his performance?
I wasn't disappointed because I didn't expect anything. So I'm not one of those who were disillusioned. I, in fact, don't say that in retrospect. I wrote about him before the primaries, 2008, simply using his webpage where he was presenting himself, and seemed to me like an opportunist with few that couldn't be, whose idealism, portrayed idealism, could not be taken seriously. Some of the policies he was proudest of, I thought, were awful. Well, it's a mixed story, like most presidents. No, what he regards, the administration regards as their major achievement, the Affordable Care Act, is a small step towards dealing with what's in fact an international scandal. The U.S. healthcare system is outrageous. It has about twice the costs of comparable societies per capita and some of the worst outcomes. And this is a small step towards remedying that, not the step it should have been. In fact, not the step that the public wanted. So about almost 2/3 of the public was in favor of including a public option, essentially national health care. That was thrown out without discussion. But it's a step forward, better than it was.
Do you think, are you optimistic of a Hillary Clinton presidency, or do you think you see any difference in a Hillary Clinton presidency?
Maybe a little more militant.
More militant.
I would imagine.
When it comes to getting money out of politics, the American people are more united than on perhaps any other issue. Take a look at this new Bloomberg poll saying that 78% of those responding said that the Citizens United ruling should be overturned.
Wow,
78%.
That's big news.
Now, sometimes you get that big number overall, and then when you break it down by the parties, it doesn't look as good. But this time, it actually even looks better, I think. Republicans opposed Citizens United 80% to 18%.
Wow. That's more than half.
That's more.
Let the record note that a giant room full of progressives just applauded Republicans.
Democrats opposed it 83% to 13%, and independents 71% to 22%. What the hell, independents?
There's some jackass libertarians in there.
Probably.
So, John, now you're going to tell me how much the media covered this, right? I mean, it must have been wall-to-wall coverage.
It was on Media Matters, and I did a video about it on my channel. And that's pretty much it.
And money in politics and the corruption that it leads to finishes number 1 or number 2 in almost every poll in terms of issues that Americans care most about. So now let me tell you the amount of coverage that it received on primetime nightly news on ABC, CBS, NBC, and PBS. Not one story.
God.
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero. But wait. To be fair, the Sunday talk shows, though, 0 stories.
Yeah.
Not one.
It's almost like they're part of the problem.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to understand the concept of censorship when we have so many options for news. There are hundreds of TV stations, newspapers, and radio shows. But the truth is that almost every avenue from which we get our information in the mainstream media is controlled by only 6 corporations that have one specific interest: profit. News censorship is happening every day, but not necessarily from the top down blacking out the stories, but also in the form of self-censorship, framing, backpaging, all to protect the interests of those corporate conglomerates. So who are the big 6 corporations that control nearly everything you see, hear, and read? First, there's Comcast, formerly owned by GE, which controls MSNBC, NBC, and Telemundo. And there's Disney, which owns ABC, the History Channel, and and ESPN. Next, Viacom, the parent company of MTV, Paramount, and BET. And CBS with all its affiliates. And there's News Corp, which owns Fox News, the New York Post, and the Wall Street Journal. And finally, Time Warner, the parent company of CNN, Time, and People magazine, as well as Warner Brothers. So what impact does it have when an agency that's supposed to serve as a watchdog for the powerful becomes a lapdog for the powerful?
Bernie Sanders is now officially running for the presidency. The Vermont Independent is going to be running for the Democratic nomination, very importantly. And he does stress immediately, we're in this race to win. Because almost all the coverage, even including mainly from the Young Turks when we previewed that he would be running yesterday, there is this sort of need to continually repeat the fact that he's not going to win. Oh, he's going to move Hillary to the left, but of course he's not going to win. He's going to raise money in small donations, but of course he's not going to win. And he doesn't want anyone to think that he is just doing this as sort of a symbol or to influence the debate. He's saying he is running to be president, which I think is important.
This country today, in my view, has more serious crises than at any time since the Great Depression of the 1930s. One of the hesitancies I had about deciding whether to run or not was obviously dealing with money. I'm not going to get money from the Koch brothers, and I'm not going to get money from billionaires. I'm going to have to raise my campaign contributions to BernieSanders.com, small individual contributions. That's how I'm going to do it. But I seriously wonder, and it's not just Bernie Sanders, I wonder now, in this day and age, whether it is possible for any candidate who is not a billionaire or who is not beholden to the billionaire class to be able to run successful campaigns. And if that is the case, I want you all to recognize what a sad state of affairs that is for American democracy. Now let me conclude by saying this, and I say this to the media. I've never run a negative ad in my life. I've been in many campaigns, and you ask the people of Vermont, they will tell you Bernie Sanders has never run a negative ad. I hate and detest these 30-second ugly negative ads. I believe that in a democracy, what elections are about are serious debates over serious issues, not political gossip, not making campaigns into soap operas. This is not the Red Sox versus the Yankees. This is the debate over major issues facing the American people. Honest people. My conservative friends differ with me, and that's fine. That's called democracy. That's a good thing. But I would hope, and I ask the media's help on this, allow us to discuss the important issues facing the American people, and let's not get hung up on political gossip, all the other soap opera aspects of modern campaigns.
It's time to bring transparency, openness, integrity back to the political process, and get money out of the political process, overturn Citizens United, put the middle class back together, strengthen Social Security. These are solid issues. These are genuinely solid issues, and I think that Bernie Sanders, and I say this, I wouldn't, you know, for a long time I didn't actually think this, and now I'm absolutely convinced of it. He has the potential to be the next FDR.
That's right. Bernie Sanders could be the next Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Let me explain. When FDR took over the White House in 1933, America was in dire straits. 2 straight decades of Republican rule culminated in the Great Depression and had decimated what remained of the middle class. The super rich dominated our political system. Wall Street was a giant deregulated casino. Workers had no union rights, and unemployment was rampant. And to make matters worse, many of the protections that we take for granted today, like, for example, Social Security, did not yet exist. So FDR went ahead and oversaw what remains, with the probable exception of the Civil War, the most radical transformation of American democracy in our history, the New Deal. He signed the Wagner Act, giving workers the right to collectively bargain with their bosses. He created the Works Progress Administration, the WPA, and the Civilian Conservation Corps, the CCC, which provided jobs for millions of unemployed Americans and made the government the employer of last resort when capitalism failed. He created the Securities and Exchange Commission and signed the Glass-Steagall Act, which clamped down on Wall Street gambling and made the banking industry boring, safe, and sustainable. He also signed the Social Security Act, which created the backbone of the modern-day welfare state and for the first time made it possible for all Americans to retire with a guaranteed pension. But the New Deal was bigger than just a collection of acts and agencies. What made it so important in the long run was that the New Deal created the preconditions for the existence of a large American middle class.
Frankly, think that our system of mainly bought elections, he doesn't have much of a chance. But if he were elected, I think he would, of the current candidates, I think he'd be the one who would have, from my point of view, the best policies.
The 2016 campaign is underway.
I'm running for president.
And it's pretty clear who's leading in internet sharing. So how do you become the president of the internet? Well, you say what you think and you give no f***s.
In Sin City, it was showtime for the Democrats. Deep inside a Rococo-themed casino last night, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders was cast in the role of capitalist refusenik.
First of all, Bernie Sanders may use the word socialist, but he's basically a New Dealer. Now, in the current American political spectrum, yes, to be a New Dealer is to be way out on the left. Yes. Eisenhower, for example, who said anyone who questions the New Deal doesn't belong in the political system would be regarded as a raving leftist.
There is certainly a lot of excitement in this room tonight and no doubt around the country. We are back at the Wynn Resort in Las Vegas in the presidential battleground state of Nevada for the first Democratic debate of the 2016 campaign. I'm Anderson Cooper. Thanks for joining us. We've already welcomed the candidates on stage. They are in place at their podiums. Before we dive into Senator Sanders.
Anderson, thank you very much. I think most Americans understand that our country today faces a series of unprecedented crises. The middle class of this country for the last 40 years has been disappearing. Millions of Americans are working longer hours for lower wages, and yet almost all of the new income and wealth being created is going to the top 1%. As a result of this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision, our campaign finance system is corrupt and is undermining American democracy. Millionaires and billionaires are pouring unbelievable sums of money into the political process in order to fund super PACs and to elect candidates who represent their interests, not the interests of working people. Today, the scientific community is virtually unanimous. Climate change is real, it is caused by human activity, and we have a moral responsibility to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy and leave this planet a habitable planet for our children and our grandchildren. Today in America, we have more people in jail than any other country on earth. African American youth unemployment is 51%. Hispanic youth unemployment is 36%. It seems to me that instead of building more jails and providing more incarceration, maybe, just maybe, we should be putting money into education and jobs for our kids. What this campaign is about is whether we can mobilize our people to take back our government from a handful of billionaires and create the vibrant democracy we know we can and should have. Thank you.
You supported the Sandinistas in Nicaragua, you honeymooned in the Soviet Union, and just this weekend you said you're not a capitalist. Doesn't that ad write itself?
Do I consider myself part of the casino capitalist process by which so few have so much and so many have so little, by which Wall Street, greed and recklessness wreck this economy? No, I don't. I believe in a society where all people do well.
Just in July, New Hampshire, you told the crowd you, quote, take a backseat to no one when it comes to progressive values.
I take a backseat to no one when you look at my record and standing up and fighting for progressive values.
Last month in Ohio, you said you plead guilty to, quote, being kind of moderate and center. Do you change your political identity based on who you're talking to?
No, I think that, like most people that I know, I have a range of views, but they are rooted in my values and my experience.
Just for the record, are you a progressive or are you a moderate?
I'm a progressive.
You know, I get accused of being kind of moderate and center. I plead guilty.
Who snuck down the hallway. Away from the spin room, Bernie Sanders did a turn for the nurses. They think he won the night, but their favourite senator faces a tough fight to undo what feels now more than ever the most likely outcome, Hillary Clinton for president.
Hillary Clinton has posited herself as the candidate of the people. But not many candidates of the people have vacation homes in the Hamptons that cost $200,000 per month, or hang out with the world's billionaires. You know, it's hard to know who she really is.
Do you think New York State should recognize gay marriage?
No.
No. Okay.
I support marriage for lesbian and gay couples.
Anybody who thinks that they can influence what I will do doesn't know me very well. And they can actually look and see what I have said and done throughout my career. Take one.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead. And she said that anybody who knows her knows that she's not easily influenced.
Mrs. Clinton stood up. She said, let's get our picture taken, which we did. And she said, Professor Warren, we've got to stop that awful bill, referring to this bankruptcy bill that's sponsored by the credit card companies. So I left. She went back to Washington, and I heard later from someone who was a White House staffer that there were skid marks in the hallways when Mrs. Clinton got back as people reversed direction on that bankruptcy bill.
They were supporting the industry, and because of her...
President Clinton had been showing that this was another way that he could be helpful to business. It wasn't a very high visibility bill. And when Mrs. Clinton came back with a little better understanding of how it all worked, they reversed course, and they reversed course fast. And indeed, the proof is in the pudding. The last bill that came before President Clinton was that bankruptcy bill that was passed by the House and the Senate in 2000, and he vetoed it. And in her autobiography, Mrs. Clinton took credit for that veto, and she rightly should. She turned around a whole administration on the subject of bankruptcy. She got it.
So there was Hillary Clinton when there was a bankruptcy bill that was favorable to the corporate moneyed interests that hurt the working man. She got educated about it by Elizabeth Warren. She then went back to Washington and got Bill Clinton to veto that bill. That happened. And then what happened? Let's see what happened. Does money influence Hillary Clinton?
Then one of the first bills that came up after she was Senator Clinton was the bankruptcy bill. This is a bill that's like a vampire. It will not die, right? There's a lot of money behind it. And
bill her husband had vetoed.
Her husband had vetoed it very much at her urging. And she voted in favor of it.
Why?
As Senator Clinton, the pressures are very different. It's a well-financed industry. A lot of people don't realize that the industry that gave the most money to Washington over the past few years was not the oil industry, was not pharmaceuticals. It was consumer credit products. Those are the people, the credit card companies have been giving money, and they have influence.
And Mrs. Clinton was one of them, as senator.
She has taken money from the groups, and more to the point, she worries about them as a constituency.
So what does this mean, though, to these people, these millions of people out there whom the politicians cavort in front of as favoring the middle class and then are beholden to the powerful interests that undermine the middle class? What does it say about politics today?
This is the scary part about democracy today. We're talking again about the impact of money. The credit industry on this bankruptcy bill has spent tens of millions of dollars lobbying, and as their profits grow, they just throw more into lobbying for how they can get laws that will make it easier and easier and easier to drain money out of the pockets of middle-class families.
Okay, so there you go. Hillary Clinton, she says she's not affected by money. She says there you go. She's affected by money completely, 100%. And there it is from Elizabeth Warren. It's not my words. It's Elizabeth Warren. And so people who say we have to grow up, we don't really know what's happening. They said the same thing to the Occupy Wall Street people. We know exactly what's happening, and that's why we want a revolution from Bernie Sanders.
I will stand terms of my political career, fighting for workers, fighting for the poorest people in this country. Madam Secretary, I will match my record against yours any day of the week.
Today, Hillary Clinton presents herself as the anti-Trump, anti-Republican candidate. There's been a lot of outrage about the impression that the establishment has already anointed her as the Democratic nominee and has carved out her path to the presidency. But like in 2008, her guaranteed seat on the throne is being derailed by the unpredictable moods of the masses and millions of young progressive voters. She continues to play her shape-shifting game, morphing her positions to try to capture the support from her opponent. But the real Hillary is still inside. In fact, every layer of Hillary's career shows why. Far from being a candidate of the people, she's the top pick by corporations to do the real job of any U.S. president. Be the CEO of the empire.
In the 4 years since the inspectors left, intelligence reports show that Saddam Hussein has worked to rebuild his chemical and biological weapons stock, his missile delivery capability, and his nuclear program. He has also given aid, comfort, and sanctuary to terrorists, including al-Qaeda members, and will keep trying to develop nuclear weapons. Should he succeed in that endeavor, he could alter the political and security landscape of the Middle East, which, as we know all too well, affects American security. This is a very difficult vote. This is probably the hardest decision I've ever had to make. Any vote that might lead to war should be hard, but I cast it with conviction.
She spread the lie that Iraq was in violation of UN resolutions, despite the actual weapons inspectors arguing the contrary, and continued to assert Iraq had WMDs despite it being, by that time, thoroughly debunked. As the US and Iraqi body count grew and complete disaster ensued, Hillary still went around the country asserting that she had no regrets giving Bush total authority to invade and occupy Iraq. In 2007, she voted to give Bush the same authority again, with a blank check to attack Iran by trying to label their military a terrorist organization, a move rejected even by pro-war Democrats.
Today, Joe Lieberman, who authored the Iraq resolution, has authored another resolution, and it is essentially a fig leaf to let George Bush go to war with Iran. And I want to congratulate Biden for voting against it, Dodd for voting against it, and I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it. You're not going to get another shot at this, because what's happened, if this war ensues, we invade, and they're looking for an excuse to do it. And Obama was not even there to vote.
Senator Clinton, I want to give you a chance to respond.
Ready? Her judgment. Now, we all know the Iraq war was a big mistake.
Yeah.
Everybody agrees with you. But a lot of people made that mistake, and you keep harping on that.
Oh, you harp on the war that we're still involved in.
Why are you harping on that? Maybe you should let that go, Bernie. You know, the Iraq war. No, nobody should let that go. Again.
Should let that go already.
Nobody should let that go. Why don't you let that go? Why are you harping on the Iraq war? This is a real thing. Again, a grown-up person said, and she's not embarrassed. She's not embarrassed. Look at her. She's not embarrassed. A grown-up person. This may be the dumbest stuff I've ever heard in my life. And it's saying something. For The View, that's saying something.
It destroyed our economy.
Why are you quick? Why you keep harping on the biggest foreign blunder in the history of our country that she full-throated supported? Why are you harping on that? Why don't you let it go? This is a grown-up. Let me just say this, Joy. You can't harp on the Iraq war enough. Oh, sure, all those dead American soldiers, thousands of dead Iraqis, all the chaos that war created. We destabilized the Middle East, setting the table for World War III. What's happening right now? Why do you keep harping on that? Why don't you let it go? Why don't you let it go? Because I'm dumb and I don't have any integrity, and I think these are legitimate questions because I'm dumb. You're dumber than me, Joy Behar, and I'm dumb, and that's saying something. And then you go on TV, not embarrassed even a little. And you know why? Because she's a millionaire. I wouldn't give a shit if I said stupid stuff like that all day, if I could go home to my $1 million penthouse apartment in Manhattan. I wouldn't mind either. She doesn't mind. She doesn't mind. This is jaw-dropping dumb. Like, they're not embarrassed to say this. You know why? Because and there won't be a price to pay for this. And why won't there be a price to pay for this? Because she's doing it at the behest of the establishment. And so there's never a price to pay. If you lie in favor of the establishment, if you do BS like this in favor of the establishment, there's never a price to pay. Never. Let's keep going.
Well, I think it is fair for us to be talking about our views on foreign policy. And Secretary Clinton and I disagree not only over the war in Iraq, which is a judgment call. We both got the same information.
Yes.
I voted and helped lead the opposition to that war. But there are issues of regime change.
And so instead of being like, wow, maybe I should be supporting you, you're right. You were on the right side of that. She's wagging her finger at him. Instead of saying, thanks for having the courage to stand up when everyone was standing against you. Thanks for No, it says, you're dead. And you wonder why more people aren't like Bernie Sanders. Because this is what they get from pretend liberals like Joy Behar. That's a pretend liberal. Why don't you just forget about it? She does sound like Elizabeth Hasselbeck. Why don't you get over the Iraq war? George Bush apologized. They said they're sorry. They said they're sorry. Why do you keep bringing it up? What the... Here we go.
The role that she played in Libya, which I disagree with as well. Her kind words for Henry Kissinger, who I think was a terrible Secretary of State. You know, Joy, what campaigns are about are differences of opinion. That's called American democracy.
I know. She has said that she was wrong about Iraq at this point, though. She has said that. So
just stop harping on it.
So she has said that. She has said she was wrong. Like, that's it's not that she was wrong. Like, that's the problem. But she's like, the problem is that you keep bringing it up.
The truth is that the most significant vote and issue regarding foreign policy that we have seen in this country in modern history was the vote on the war in Iraq. Okay, that's the fact. I voted against the war in Iraq, and if you go to my website, listen to the speech that I gave when I was in the House in 2002, saying, yeah, it's easy to get rid of a dictator like Saddam Hussein, but there's going to be a political vacuum, there will be instability, and it gives me no pleasure to tell you that much of what I feared, in fact, happened. Hillary Clinton voted for the war in Iraq.
Question, Mr. Speaker, is not whether we like Saddam Hussein or not.
The question is whether he represents an imminent threat to the American people and whether a unilateral American invasion of Iraq will do more harm than good. Mr. Speaker, the front page of the Washington Post today reported that all relevant U.S. intelligence agencies now say, despite what we have heard from the White House, that, quote, Saddam Hussein is unlikely to initiate a chemical or biological attack against the United States, end quote. Speaker, I do not know why the President feels, despite what our intelligence agencies are saying, that it is so important to pass a resolution of this magnitude this week, and why it is necessary to go forward without the support of the United Nations and our major allies, including those who are fighting side by side with us in the war on terrorism. But I do fear that as a part of this process, the President is ignoring some of the most pressing economic issues affecting the well-being of ordinary Americans.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, we should make no mistake about it. Today is a tragic day for humanity, for the people of Iraq, for the people of the United States, and for the United Nations as an institution. It is also a tragic day for the future of our planet and for the children, 30,000 of whom in the third world will starve to death today while we spend billions to wage this war, and 25% of whom live in poverty in our own country because we apparently lack the funds to provide them a minimal standard of living. War and the enormous destructive power of our armed forces is our preferred manner for dealing with the very complicated and terrible crises in the Middle East. I fear that someday we will regret that decision and that we are in fact laying the groundwork for more and more wars in that region in years to come.
A President Hillary puts us in great danger of catastrophic war. Another fact she's proven time and again over the entirety of her career. Clinton's war record is perhaps most exemplified by her endorsement from one of the world's most notorious war criminals, the butcher of Cambodia, Henry Kissinger. On the campaign trail, she bragged, "I was very flattered when Henry Kissinger said I ran the State Department better than anybody had run it in a long time. So I have an idea about what it's going to take to make our government work more efficiently." Yes, the relationship between Kissinger and Clinton is very close. Not only did she consult with him regularly as Secretary of State, her and Bill frequently vacationed with the Kissingers.
She talked about getting the approval or the support or the mentoring of Henry Kissinger. Now, I find it rather amazing because I happen to believe that Henry Kissinger was one of the most destructive secretaries of state in the modern history of this country. I am proud to say that Henry Kissinger is not my friend.
I know journalists have asked who you do listen to on foreign policy, and we have yet to know who that is.
Well, it ain't Henry Kissinger, that's for sure.
Defense contractor employees have given her more cash than any other candidate. In her book, she brags about her lead role backing the 2009 coup of the democratically elected leader in Honduras, further plunging the country into violence and instability. After her promotion to Secretary of State, she boldly planted a flag in the Obama administration to establish the Hillary Doctrine. According to The Nation, 24 current and former administration officials, foreign diplomats, friends, and outside analysts described Mrs. Clinton as almost always the advocate of the most aggressive actions considered by Mr. Obama's national security team. Of course, she joined Obama in creating and leading terrible affronts to human life and rights, like the murderous drone campaign in Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia. The program's mass civilian casualties, she says, she takes with a grain of salt. However, on other issues, she took the lead, showing how she would steer the empire's ship as she aimed for the presidency. Masked and sinister right to protect jargon, Hillary is well known as the primary advocate for US-led attack to overthrow the Libyan state, to feed on its resources and hijack the Arab Spring.
As we came, we saw, he died.
She laughed about an African leader being lynched on television, his country tossed into an era of unimaginable pain. Right afterward, what everyone predicted happened. Strife from a shattered state, decimated infrastructure, and U.S. armed rebel fighters has turned Libya into a new bastion for ISIS. The scandal of Benghazi isn't that Hillary allowed Americans to die. but that those Americans were there funneling weapons to extremists in a country she had just helped destroy. And what did Hillary take away from the incident? That there should have been more American troops.
We have learned the hard way, when America is absent, especially from unstable places, there are consequences.
Yeah, I don't think it was because America was absent, but because they had just carpet-bombed the country and injected its entire government. And on Syria, she's led the push for war from the beginning. She personally joined the shame general David Petraeus in creating the CIA-led Friends of Syria insurgency. She was among the first and most forceful in pushing for a no-fly zone to overthrow the Syrian state. Even as recently as 2015, she had a high-profile break with Obama over the issue, and even in recent debates had to continue to advocate for it. A no-fly zone means war. It means U.S. bombing of all Syrian anti-aircraft defense systems, and much more. It would undoubtedly trigger a broader regional conflict involving nuclear powers. When it comes to Israel, she has rebuked Obama on the most mild criticisms of Israeli war crimes, and vows to give the occupation more aid than any other candidate. But the biggest apparent danger of a regime under the Hillary doctrine is the risk of new U.S. wars.
Sometimes I think that the people in this institution and in the White House are really losing contact and not knowing what's going on with the American people. In case you don't know, and you haven't seen the latest polls, the American people hold the President of the United States in contempt. They hold this institution in contempt. They hold the Republican Party in contempt. They hold the Democratic Party in contempt. They think that maybe, given all of the crises facing this country, it's about time that there was some bold leadership here and that this institution made some hard choices. And this is what the choice is about. We are spending $270 billion a year on the military, but we don't have a major enemy. I know it hurts your feelings. I know you're upset about it. I know you're hoping and praying that maybe we'll have another war. Maybe somebody will rise up. But it ain't happening. The Soviet Union doesn't exist. The Warsaw Pact is through. Who are you worried about? Iraq? Panama? Who are you worried about? I'll tell you who I'm worried about. I'm worried about the fact that our workers are seeing a decline in their standard of living. They want to see our industry be rebuilt. That's what they want to see. No more B-2 bombers, no more Star Wars. Let's make the quality products we need. Let's invest in American industry. No, I won't yield. The American people want to see our kids educated. They want a Head Start program. They want their kids to be able to go to college. They want to wipe out the fact that 5 million children in this country go to bed hungry. They want child care for their kids. They want decent education. Let's have the guts to give some leadership to this country. The Cold War's over. Let's reinvest in America. Let's support this amendment.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The gentleman from California.
Okay.
Having been party insiders for decades, the Clintons have manipulated D.C. reporters, mastered the media spin, and have a well-oiled PR machine at their beck and call.
Hillary Clinton has done everything right. She has run a good campaign. She has outperformed in debates. She's raised money. She's got a great ground game.
As a Latina, I can tell you that Latinos all over the country are very excited about Hillary. Latina women are very excited about Hillary.
Knew from the beginning that when the conversation turned to foreign policy, that this was going to be when Hillary Clinton really shined. And I think that that whole exchange was probably one of her strongest moments of the night.
Undisclosed is that many of the people praising Hillary across the corporate media work at firms employed by Clinton's campaign and super PACs. It's not just paid pundits, but the reporters and owners themselves. From Chris Matthews to the head of the New York Times, a big gang of media personalities have financial and personal ties to the Clintons.
He's a Democrat. He also says he's a progressive. He's a social democrat, democratic socialist, social democrat, whatever. How can they all be the same? And isn't Hillary into a real problem here of trying to compete with a socialist on how left she's willing to go, and he's getting the title progressive. She's given him the title. Why is he a progressive? He's a socialist. Why is she letting him to even begin to define a progressive? He's a socialist. It's the only label he's the right to, because he took it upon himself to say that's what he is. I watched him this morning for an hour and a half. He never mentioned foreign policy, never mentioned security, never mentioned ISIS. It was all the social agenda of socialists or very progressive Democrats, and that's all we talked about.
Did that seem even-handed?
Sanders speak at the Democratic Convention, win or lose? You want to have him up there on the stage as a socialist representing the Democratic Party? Do you want him up there?
Bernie Sanders.
Do you want him on the floor of the convention?
Bernie Sanders has been a good Democrat. Caucuses with the Democrats. Of course he should speak.
Speak in prime time.
He should speak at the Democratic National Convention.
In prime time, with everybody watching.
Bernie Sanders represents we are a big tent
So the
party.
answer is yes.
I did. I said yes. I can say yes again.
But in prime time.
I don't know what time he should speak.
Oh, maybe when nobody's watching, you mean?
No.
Every arm of the corporatocracy has been hedging their bets on her for almost 2 decades. Alongside media conglomerates Cablevision and Time Warner, 5 of Hillary's top 10 political donors since 1999 have been some of the most powerful banks: Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, and Lehman Brothers. But those numbers pale in comparison to how much Wall Street firms have graciously donated to Hillary's super PAC, to the tune of $15 million.
I debated then Senator Obama numerous times on stages like this, and he was the recipient of the largest number of Wall Street donations of anybody running on the Democratic side ever. Now, when it mattered, he stood up and took on Wall Street. He pushed through and he passed the Dodd-Frank regulations, the toughest regulations since the 1930s.
Let's not insult the intelligence of the American people. People aren't dumb. Why in God's name does Wall Street make huge campaign contributions? I guess just for the fun of it. They want to throw money around.
Kind of criticism that we've heard from Senator Sanders about our president, I expect from Republicans. I do not expect from someone running for the Democratic nomination to succeed President Obama.
That is, Madam Secretary, that is a low blow. Do senators have the right to disagree with the president? Have you ever disagreed with a president?
Senator,
I suspect you may have. One of us ran against Barack Obama. I was not that candidate. Wall Street is perhaps the most powerful economic and political force in this country. You have companies like Goldman Sachs, who just recently paid a settlement fine with the federal government for $5 billion for defrauding investors. Goldman Sachs was one of those companies whose illegal activity helped destroy our economy and ruin the lives of millions of Americans. But this is what a rigged economy and a corrupt campaign finance system and a broken criminal justice system is about. These guys are so powerful that not one of the executives on Wall Street has been charged with anything after paying, in this case of Goldman Sachs, a $5 billion fine. Kid gets caught with marijuana, that kid has a police record. A Wall Street executive destroys the economy, $5 billion settlement with the government, no criminal record. That is what power is about, that is what corruption is about, and that is what has to change in the United States of America.
Secretary Clinton, I did want to ask you, the last time you ran for president, Fortune magazine put you on its cover with the headline, "Business Loves Hillary," pointing out your support from many CEOs in corporate America. I'm curious, 8 years later, should corporate America love Hillary Clinton?
Everybody should.
Will corporate America love a President Sanders?
No, I think they won't. So Hillary and I have a difference. CEOs of large multinationals may like Hillary. They ain't going to like me, and Wall Street is going to like me even less. And the reason for that is we've got to deal with the elephant in the room, which is the greed, recklessness, and illegal behavior on Wall Street.
The Clintons sell their friendship through other avenues, such as huge honorariums for speaking fees. Much like George W. Bush's motivational speaking tour, Bill and Hillary are quick to exploit themselves for corporate loot. But they don't come cheap. Averaging $211,000 a pop, Bill and Hillary made more than $153 million in paid speeches to elite think tanks and closed-door boardrooms since 2001. In 2013, the year after leaving the State Department, Hillary made $3 million giving just 12 speeches to Wall Street banks and financial institutions. This calculates to her earning $5,000 per minute. Seems like good, honest work to me. Demands to release the speech transcripts have been laughed off by Hillary. But we don't really need to see the transcripts because we already know what's in them. Her praising banks and committing to their prosperity. Although Hillary has recently tried to appear critical of Wall Street to pander to Sanders' immense support, her fat cat banker donors aren't worried in the slightest, saying her talking points about inequality are, quote, just politics.
What do you see as the difference between what you would do about the banks and what Secretary Clinton would do?
The first difference is I don't take money from big banks. I don't get personal speaking fees from Goldman Sachs. What I would do is understand that when you have 3 out of the 4 largest banks today bigger than they were when we bailed them out because they were too big to fail, when you have the 6 largest financial institutions having assets of 60% of the GDP of America, it is very clear to me what you have to do. You got to bring back a 21st century Glass-Steagall legislation, and you got to break up these huge financial institutions. They have too much economic power, and they have too much financial power over our entire economy. If Teddy Roosevelt were alive today, the old Republican trust buster, what he would say is, these guys are too powerful, break them up. I believe that's what the American people want to see. That's my view.
Secretary Clinton, help the voter understand the daylight between the two of you here.
Well, there's no daylight.
Fossil fuel lobbyists are also working hard to elect Hillary. Her 2016 campaign received more than $4.5 million from lobbyists, bundlers, and donors connected to the world's biggest polluters. Their investment will pay off tenfold. Hillary has been at the forefront of promoting fracking, a dangerous and destructive method of natural gas extraction. And she's much more than just a supporter of fracking. She personally created a bureau at the State Department focused on spreading it around the world, with one of her major sponsors, Chevron.
The issue of climate change has been a major talking point for both of you. I wanted to bring in Sarah Belair. She's a student at the University of Michigan at Dearborn who says she's currently undecided. Ms. Belair has a question on fracking, which for viewers is a process of oil and gas drilling that's led to a significant increase in American energy production and jobs, but also raises serious environmental concerns. Sarah, your question's for Secretary Clinton, but you'll both be able to weigh in. Sarah?
Fracking can lead to environmental pollution, including, but not limited to, the contamination of a water supply. Do you support fracking?
Secretary Clinton?
You know, I don't support it when any locality or any state is against it, number one. I don't support it when the release of methane or contamination of water is present. I don't support it, number three, unless we can require that anybody who fracks has to tell us exactly what chemicals they are using. So by the time we get through all of my conditions, I do not think there will be many places in America where fracking will continue to take place. And I think that's the best approach, because right now there are places where fracking is going on that are not sufficiently regulated. So first, we've got to regulate everything that is currently underway, and we have to have a system in place that prevents further fracking unless conditions like the ones that I just mentioned are met.
Senator Sanders,
my answer is a lot shorter. No, I do not support fracking.
To Secretary Clinton's point, there are a number of Democratic governors in many states who say that fracking can be done safely and that it's helping their economies. Are they wrong?
Yes. One of the differences, look, Secretary Clinton, and I've said this before, and I admit it, she has the support of all the governors, Democratic, all the senators, all the congressmen. I don't. I am not part of that establishment. I plead guilty.
Lobbying groups for private prison giants Geo Group and Corrections Corporation of America are bundling dollars to the Ready for Hillary PAC, tough on crime, coded racism.
We're making some progress. Much of it is related to the initiative called community policing, because we have finally gotten more police officers on the street. That was one of the goals that the president had when he pushed the crime bill that was passed in 1994. They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel.
Hillary Clinton tries to rationalize her support for these measures today as having unintended consequences, but they were precisely designed to target African Americans.
China, as you all know, is over 3 times our size, is a communist authoritarian country. We have more people in jail than China. We have well over 2 million people in jail. And every day, young people are being arrested, lives are being destroyed. In my view, it makes eminently more sense to invest in jobs and education than in jails and incarceration. I want this country to have the distinction of not having more people in jail than any other country, but being the best educated nation on earth.
Hillary's also been given more money from Big Pharma than any other candidate and received over 1/3 of total contributions given out by pharmaceutical giants. At the helm of a right turn for the party, politicians flocked to the Clintons, which brought a new era of Democratic Party politics, adapting to the changing needs of empire. Neoliberalism was enacted through NAFTA, decimating American jobs and economies abroad. Massive deregulation of Wall Street and the repeal of the Glass-Steagall Act set the stage for an economic crisis. Clinton's crime bill exploded our shameful era of mass incarceration. When the Clintons left the White House in 1999, their rise to political powerhouses was really just the beginning.
New numbers out from Bernie Sanders' campaign, and they burn. Aides to Bernie Sanders said Wednesday night that his campaign has now collected more than 2 million contributions and that they expect to outpace President Obama's 2012 re-election effort on that count by the end of the year. Damn. Despite the enormous number of people who've given him money, in terms of the money race, he's still losing to Hillary Clinton. Let me give you the numbers behind that. Clinton, the Democratic frontrunner, had raised more money overall than Sanders, $77.5 million to $41.5 million as of September 30th. So despite the fact that Bernie Sanders is getting it from a lot more people, Hillary Clinton has some few people who are giving her a tremendous amount. And then she also has a wide base too. But overall, the people at the top, the millionaires and billionaires giving her money, are so much higher that she winds up having more than $36 million more than Bernie Sanders. Okay. There's almost no news stories about Bernie Sanders. What did Trump say? What did Cruz do? What about Rubio and his incredibly large ears? And how thirsty is Rubio? Really thirsty? All of these different things that are going on. Almost not a peep about Bernie Sanders. Not interesting. No, not going to cover it. Not, shush, not interesting. Much more than Hillary Clinton, much more than any of the Republicans, much more than Donald Trump. Not interesting. Don't cover Bernie Sanders. Well, look, the internet exists, and he's getting a lot of his contributions, of course, online as well. So sad day for the TV media. You could try to hush it up all day long. You could try to not cover him. Well, whether you like it or not, Bernie Sanders is coming. And I guess you think he's bringing hell with him for you guys in the establishment. That's why you're desperate not to talk about him. But this momentum is real. The money is real. The polling is real. He has not caught up to Hillary Clinton in nationwide polling. That is true, partly because the mainstream media refuses to cover him. But this phenomenon is very real. And I think that even at some point, especially as Iowa and New Hampshire approaches, the mainstream media is going to be like, ow, ooh, that's a little hot around here. What happened? Oh, I'm feeling the burn.
Iowa is choosing, the world is watching, and this night will change the course of the 2016 campaign.
OMG, as they say. Take a look at this. Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, 49.8% for Hillary Clinton, 49.6% for Bernie Sanders. That's with 90% of the vote in. It doesn't get a whole lot closer than that.
Des Moines, Polk County. Someone on Twitter says it's a drinking game every time I say Polk County, so load up, folks.
Wow, what a night, an unbelievable night.
Iowa, thank you.
This outcome tonight ensures that this race is going to go on for months and months on the Democratic side.
We have exit poll information about this Sanders victory tonight. This is very interesting. According to our NBC News exit poll, key groups of voters supporting Bernie Sanders tonight included 85% of millennials.
The Bernie Sanders-Hillary Clinton split is it's more like an ideological squiggle than it is a straight liberal versus moderate.
The government of our great nation belongs to all of us, not just a few wealthy campaign contributors. That is what this campaign is about. That is what the political revolution is about. So, New Hampshire, thank you again. And now it's on. Thank you, New Hampshire. And now it's on to Nevada, South Carolina, and beyond.
You just started watching us?
Yeah, a month ago, because you started covering Bernie Sanders.
Yeah? You couldn't find any Bernie coverage elsewhere?
No, nowhere could I find Bernie.
Do you think the corporate media has basically been essentially rooting against him?
Yeah, they show Trump and they show Hillary Clinton and they show she has so many superdelegates and so many points over him, and it's insane.
And they show empty podiums waiting for Trump.
Yes, they'll show a podium of him for 20 minutes, and Bernie Sanders has been talking in Indiana for an hour now, and it doesn't even make any sense.
What? Projected winner, NBC calls Hillary Clinton the winner of the Democratic caucuses in Nevada today, picking up 43 delegates. It's done. She's won this race. What a tightly contested race it has been all day today. And we're going to go to John Ralston right now to give us the best information you get from the best guy we have out here. John, Hillary Clinton has won, according to NBC's projection, 43 delegates. It's done.
It's done, and you know what, Chris? It was what I told you earlier. I just saw the numbers coming in from Reno, where Bernie really needs...
Yesterday, they were in court, and I think the judge said it's a private organization. They can do whatever they want. So,
please smile, because we're Democrats. Okay. The motion is this. I am asking you to have a recount. 9:30 was too soon for a preliminary vote. The petitions did not get to everyone. Everyone wanted to come in and get a seat or get their badge or get things at the different tables around and get their pins. But they didn't get the petitions. And that's what we need. You can't count petitions if nobody got to sign them. Okay, we have 3 speakers for and 3 speakers against. I will call the question. It has been moved and seconded that the temporary convention rules be passed by the body. All those in favor say aye.
The truth about the all-out mayhem that happened at the Nevada delegate convention this week. Nearly 64 Sanders delegates were excluded from the convention process. That was done by state party chair and Hillary Clinton foot masseuse, Roberta Lang. Now, the rules say she can't do that, but the rules don't really matter because they changed the rules. When they went to pass the rule change, there was an uproar from the delegates. I mean, people were furious. They were screaming. They were furious. But luckily, Hillary Clinton's superdelegate, Senator Barbara Boxer, was there to calm everything down.
I bring a message from Bernie Sanders, and I bring a message from Hillary Clinton. When you boo me, you're booing Bernie Sanders. Go ahead. You're booing Bernie Sanders. You're booing Bernie. You're booing Bernie.
No, I think they're booing you. Is she trying to be a Jedi? You're booing Bernie. You're booing Bernie. I'm booing Bernie. Well, since that's not working, let's go to the Hillary Clinton School of Politics and change our position completely.
You're booing Bernie. Let's hear it for Hillary Clinton. All right. We have the vote. We have the voice. We have victory. Yay.
Crowd control 101. If at first they hate you, poke them in the eye. Later, Roberta Lang went to close the convention by a voice vote, which means the people have to say yes. Here's the response. So, I'll take that as a no? What the f*** was that?
What kind of democracy is that?
The night ended in that hotel ballroom with reports of chairs being thrown at the front of the stage. Law enforcement came in, shut the whole thing down. The lights in the room ultimately got shut off by the venue. The next day, somebody chalked the outside of Nevada Democrats' headquarters. Party chairwoman Roberta Lang said she got death threats. The Nevada Democratic Party offices were closed today because of what described as concerns about security. Ugly, ugly stuff coming out of the Democratic Party in Nevada. And all of it over, essentially, a handful of delegates in a state that one of the candidates clearly won at the statewide caucus. I mean, for all that the Democrats are throwing chairs at each other in Las Vegas, Democrats really could lose in the general election in Nevada if they don't get it together.
Violence and intimidation are never acceptable under any circumstances, and what happened at that convention was unacceptable.
Okay, I'm just going to say it again. Not one videotape, not one snapshot, not one Polaroid, nothing. Not one picture, not a selfie, nothing shows violence happening at that Nevada caucus. Not only that, no arrests. None. No arrests. And there were cops all over the place. No arrests. Not one videotape of any violence. And she just keeps saying this. And guess what happens when you say this? You make the story about that instead of what the story should be about, which was the corruption that everybody saw that actually did take place on videotape.
That's what happens with the Trump campaign. We can never resort to the tactics that they engage in.
She just compared the Bernie Sanders supporters to Trump supporters. She just did that on national television. She just did that. And let me get this straight. The senator who is a liberal's wet dream of a senator, Bernie Sanders, a liberal's wet dream of a senator. Somehow the people who support him are like Trump. And you wonder why Bernie Sanders says we need a revolution? Because this is the person running the Democratic National Committee. And you wonder why people say Bernie or bust. Do you really think those people are going to support her now? Do you really think those people are going to support this organization? I'm not. I'm not supporting her. I'm not supporting that. We need to overturn this apple cart. This is gross.
The polls have closed in South Carolina. Hillary Clinton is the winner.
South Carolina, according to one poll that we saw, about 61% of the voters were black. And so Hillary in certain states does better with black voters than Bernie Sanders does, which I always find interesting because I think that that's an example of the media kind of failing us, right? Because if the media did a good job in covering the different policies that Bernie Sanders has pushed for versus Hillary Clinton pushed for, you'd see that, Hillary Clinton doesn't have a clear record when it comes to looking out for minorities, especially black voters. There was this picture that was released by the Chicago Tribune, I believe, of Bernie Sanders getting arrested at 21 years old because he was part of the civil rights movement, okay?
Hillary and Obama, who won't even say Islamic terrorism.
Wow,
No, it's not going to be Hillary. It's going to be Bernie Sanders.
I need a drink.
Well, let me ask you about
Don't
Bernie Sanders. So Bernie Sanders is
win this thing.
Breathing down Hillary's neck.
No. He's ahead.
She's ahead. She's trying to catch up with him. Right. Okay.
What he said.
So, I mean, for the longest time, people have been saying, well, I love Bernie, but of course he can't win. That's right. Now it looks like he can win, but his biggest problem is in the black community. The brothers don't like him. Why?
Oh, no, that's not true.
Oh, it is. I have 82% of blacks.
Because we don't know Bernie. Once they get to know Bernie and recognize it's true.
Okay.
Brother Bernie Sanders represents the politician. He's the grand exemplar of integrity in public life at the national level. He represents the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., Fannie Lou Hamer, and Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, and Dorothy Day. And I would add John Coltrane, too. Wow. Because the Bernie Sanders campaign is a love trade.
But you have to...
That's what it is.
You have got a lot of work cut out for you.
But we've already moved. Yesterday, I was in South Carolina, Carolina State University, magnificent institution, right? When we were there 3 months ago, 4% of black folks supported him. Now it's 20%. They're just getting to know the brother once they find out who he is. And let's just be clear about it. Sister Hillary, she's smart, she's sharp, but the word integrity is not the first thing that comes to mind when you hear her name.
Okay.
Well, I certainly
Recently, some details have leaked about Bernie Sanders' history as a civil rights activist, and it's really going to blow your mind because they really prove that he was ahead of his time. He was ahead of almost every single liberal in the country. So I'm going to take you back in time. Let's go back to the 1960s. When Bernie Sanders was just 20 years old, he was a civil rights activist, and in order to end segregation in campus housing in the University of Chicago, he actually led a sit-in. Now here's a picture of that right now. He's the guy with the funny glasses. This is absolutely amazing. This is the 1960s, so this really shows that way back then, before a lot of us were born, he was back there leading the cause for the progressive movement.
We're standing in front of the Lincoln Monument today, one of the most beautiful buildings in our country and one of the most historic. And today, the area is filled with tourists, but 50 years ago, there were several 100,000 people here to listen to one of the most memorable and important speeches in the modern history of the United States of America, and that is the famous Martin Luther King Jr. speech, "I Have a Dream." I remember that very well, not by simply seeing it on TV or reading about it. I was way, way back there, one of the several 100,000 people who was here. I came in on a bus from the University of Chicago, where I was then going to school. I remember the day very well, and I remember the moment, the period well, because up at the University of Chicago, where I was then going to school, we were working with young people in the South. There was then an organization called SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. We were helping to raise some money for their efforts to desegregate the South.
When you have an opportunity to tell two black girls to shut up and get off stage and you don't, and you shake their hand and you smile and you step to the side and you listen, that is a firm difference from turning around and staring at a little black girl and saying, "Shut up, I'll talk to you later." You're being rude or allowing people to say that to her. I'm going to tell you the proof is in the pudding every time. If I can find a picture of you from 51 years ago, chained to a black woman, protesting segregation, and I know 51 years later, you're willing to fold your arms, hold your head, and listen to two black girls yell and scream, rightfully so, as opposed to someone who will tell you to shut up after they read their own words.
Well, can I talk? And then maybe you can listen to what I say.
As opposed to someone who will tell you later, when it comes to your children dying in the streets, I know that the only person that I have the conscience to vote for is Bernard Sanders. I know that the only person that my logical, beautiful black mind will allow me to vote for is Senator Bernie Sanders. And I want to tell the other side, I know from going around and shaking hands and hugging these beautiful black faces in South Carolina, that goddamn firewall got a crack in it.
Okay, back to the issues. The issues that I think are important.
When you're talking about, if I look at all the other candidates, someone who is for rights across the board, equal rights for women, equal rights for every ethnicity, equal rights for everyone, it is the only person I can look at is you.
I believe that marriage is not just a bond, but a sacred bond between a man and a woman.
In the 1970s, he endorsed abolishing all anti-gay restrictions in a letter that he published during his 1970 gubernatorial run. It says, quote, "Let's abolish all laws dealing with abortion, drugs, sexual behavior, adultery, homosexuality." Now, just that little tidbit of a quote, it excludes all the great things that he said about protecting the environment and about ending the drug war. In the city of Burlington and in the state of Vermont, people have the right to exercise their lifestyles. It's an American right, anyone's right to have a march. This is a civil liberties question. Now he adds, in our democratic society, it is the responsibility of government to safeguard civil liberties and civil rights, especially the freedom of speech and expression. In a free society, we must all be committed to the mutual respect of each other's lifestyle. Here's a photo of that document as well. Now, he was berated by his peers for this type of rhetoric, because he was just decades and decades ahead of his time.
Is there any shocking doubt The same people that would vote to cut defense $177 billion, the same ones that would put homos in the military, the same ones that would not fund BRAC, the same ones that would not clear up. No, I will not. Sit down, you socialist.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, well, the gentleman from California, is he still here or did he disappear?
For what purpose does the gentleman from Vermont rise?
I rise to speak in support of the amendment.
The gentleman from Vermont.
I wonder if I could question the gentleman from California. I am rising in support of the amendment.
The chair is in charge. The chair is speaking. The gentleman from Vermont has been recognized for a period of 5 minutes, and you may now proceed.
I thank the chairman very much. I would like the opportunity if the gentleman from California would respond. Just to ask him a brief question, if I might. Now, my ears may have been playing a trick on me, but I thought I heard the gentleman a moment ago say something, quote unquote, about homos in the military. Was I right in hearing that expression?
Absolutely. Putting homosexuals in the military.
You said something about homos in the military. Was the gentleman referring to the many thousands and thousands of gay people who have put their lives on the line in countless wars defending this country? Was that the group of people that the gentleman was referring to?
I'm talking about the military people in the military do not support.
That's not what we were talking about. You used the word homos in the military. You have insulted thousands of men and women who have put their lives on the line.
I'm talking about you and liberals like you that keep the foreign defense.
Gentlemen,
reclaiming my time. That if he or she does their schoolwork seriously, does well, takes school. What? Now you see, this little bird doesn't know it. Oh my. I think there may be some symbolism here. I know it doesn't look like it, but that bird is really a dove asking us for world peace. No more wars. In any case,
I can feel the burn, you can feel it too. He's the better choice, give us all a voice. Ain't no better man with a better plan. Give the 99 what we need this time. Come on, everybody, I wanna hear you say, come on, everybody, wouldn't you want election day? Wouldn't you want election day? I can feel the burn, you can feel it too. Take our country back from the money few. They can't trump us now, let me tell you why. There are more of us on a better life. Come on, everybody, we're going town to town. Come on, everybody, to burn the system down. To burn the system down. I can feel the burn, you can feel it too. Take our country back from the plutocrats. I can feel the burn, you can feel it too. Take our country say. Come on, everybody. Meet you on election day. Meet you on election day. I can feel the burn. You can feel it too. Here's a better choice. Give us all a voice. I can feel the burn. You can feel it too. Here's a better choice. Give us all a voice. I can feel the burn. You can feel it too. He's a better choice. Give us all a voice. I can feel the burn. You can feel it too. He's a better choice. Give us all a voice.
The establishment can't prevent an insurgent candidate like Bernie Sanders from winning with votes, which is why back in 1984, the Democratic Party created a superdelegate process to further undermine democracy. Here's how it works. There's about 4,000 pledged delegates divided by primary and caucus results. But there's an additional 700 superdelegates that remain unpledged, meaning they can vote against the people's will to ensure nominees are handpicked party insiders. The single vote of a superdelegate is worth thousands of ours. Many of these people are current and former members of Congress, but dozens more are literally corporate lobbyists, working on behalf of every industry from healthcare to private prisons. Like superdelegate Tonio Burgos, Pfizer lobbyist and Clinton fundraiser. Or superdelegates Jill Alper, Minion Moore, and Maria Cardona at Dewey Square Group, a lobbying firm that works directly with the Clinton campaign and lobbied on behalf of healthcare corporations to craft Obamacare for their benefit. Then there's superdelegate Jeff Berman, top lobbyist at Bryan Cave, and former lobbyist for the Keystone XL pipeline and Geo Group private prisons. Berman is even paid by the Clintons to round up other superdelegate votes. This unelected nobility comprises 1/3 of all delegates needed to secure the Democratic nomination. And the Clintons are surrounded by a flock of Democratic Party politicians who know the career benefits of hitching their wagon to the most powerful family in Washington. And with Bill's cajoling, Hillary had at least 500 superdelegate pledges under her belt months before the election had even begun. A 45-1 delegate lead over Sanders. This insane Democratic inversion plays out every time Sanders crushes a state, like in Wyoming, where he won by double digits but walked away with the same number of delegates.
The facts are the superdelegates are largely on Clinton's side, and they're probably not going to move based on the interviews we've done with them. Why is it wrong for the media to acknowledge that on Tuesday night?
Because they aren't facts at all. So first, let's just acknowledge what are actual facts, that the superdelegates do not vote until the convention. In fact, if they're not at the convention, their votes won't get counted at all, which is almost never said on television. But the superdelegates are the establishment. They're all establishment people, and they're all voting for Clinton. Only 46 for Sanders. Now, Brian, you guys, and I mean CNN and all of the establishment press, totally tilted the playing field here from day one by counting those superdelegates, when in fact you know the superdelegates do switch their votes all the time. They switched it in 2008. Hillary Clinton had a 100 superdelegate lead, which completely vanished in 2008. So why did you count them from day one, which was absolutely incorrect? It was in fact journalistic malpractice. Why did you guys do that?
So you're saying more information is not a good thing. We should hide people from the reality of what the superdelegates are thinking?
No. Brian, this is very important. If you say, hey, superdelegates are likely to vote this way, or they say they're voting this way, as an aside, that's perfectly fair. But if you count them in the official tally, when you know they can and often do switch their votes and have not voted yet, that is simply incorrect. That is not a fact. That is the opposite of a fact.
The Democracy Spring action is going on as we're filming this in Washington, D.C., following a march of over 100 miles from the Liberty Bell to D.C. The occupation of the Capitol began today, and there was a couple of Young Turks there, actually. Jordan Sheridan, our on-the-location reporter, and Cenk Uygur. And the action has led to quite a number of people being arrested, and as was his design, Cenk Uygur is amongst them.
Cenk is being moved to the line, and he's currently being put under arrest. He's getting the white zip around his back.
That is pretty amazing. So he's saying it's the largest ever there. I don't know for sure that it is, but it is an absolutely huge number of people. And it's ridiculous that they covered those Tea Party protests for months and months around the clock.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes they would have 50 people out on the Capitol steps.
Right.
50 people to sit around and listen to Michelle Bachmann misquote the Constitution and confuse it with the Declaration of Independence.
Well, the thing that I do want to point out is, at this protest, there were a few Tea Party activists present, right?
Yeah,
and part of the reason why is because this is really a nonpartisan issue. It doesn't matter if you are a radical right person on the radical right or a person on the radical left. Everyone agrees that our representatives should represent us, not corporate interests.
Not Hillary Clinton voters.
I think the Democracy Spring protest in D.C. yesterday accomplished one of its main goals, and that is demonstrating broad support for radically reforming the way we do campaign finance in this country. And it did that by bringing people together from the right and from the left to demonstrate in D.C., to be willing to be arrested. Another goal that also worked out. We'll have the details for that in just a second. However, it didn't accomplish one of its goals, and that is getting the mainstream media to actually pay attention to this and to recognize that people overwhelmingly want change. And so we'll have those stats for you as well. But first, on the arrests, and we have a follow-up video from Cenk, who was one of the people who was arrested yesterday.
Join us, man. This Democracy Spring thing is real. Civil disobedience is real. And I know it's frustrating that a lot of the establishment media didn't cover it. The largest arrest in Capitol history, and they don't think that's newsworthy. That's insane. And part of the problem is, and this is really important, guys, we did it right, and the cops thanked us for being so peaceful and doing civil disobedience right, and they were very good to us. But the problem was, it didn't bleed. That was one of the problems. If it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. That is an implicit way the media encourages violence, right? So if you do it the right way, they're like, oh, that's boring. Just an enormous amount of Americans. And remember, the number of people arrested were a small fraction of the overall protest, right? An enormous amount of Americans coming to protest because they're so worried about how bad corruption is in our government. No big deal. But if somebody had gotten a baton over the head and was bleeding, or had pushed a cop, right, they'd be like, oh my God.
Look at what is happening today. Let's look at Super Tuesday 3. You had major coverage here at CNN, at MSNBC, at Fox, all the networks, of course, all through the night as the polls are closing. You see the concession speeches and the great victory speeches. You see Hillary Clinton, Ted Cruz, Kasich. You see Donald Trump. You're waiting here at CNN, MSNBC. They said he's going to hold a news conference. Of course, it didn't end up being one.
Right.
And that's it. Well, where was Bernie Sanders? Well, in fact, Bernie Sanders was in Phoenix, Arizona before thousands of people. And as the networks were waiting for Donald Trump and all the pundits are weighing in, they don't even say that Bernie Sanders is about to speak. They didn't even record and show afterwards Bernie Sanders. He was completely absent. But it's not only the networks. The Washington Post, March 6th to 7th, they have 16 articles in a 24-hour period against Bernie Sanders. And the recent New York Times story. I think it's very important to understand the media manufactures consent. And in this case, they're this is as Noam Chomsky says, manufactures consent. Mm-hmm. We right now, this is the anniversary of the Iraq War.
Right, the 13th anniversary.
Right, it's
what
the 13th
is the consent
anniversary
that's being manufactured?
I think this exposure for Trump is very frightening. Yes, there is now some critical coverage, but for the year 2015, as the snowball rolled and it got larger and larger, he got 23 times the coverage of Bernie Sanders.
Hundreds upon hundreds of people showed up at CNN headquarters in Los Angeles and demanded CNN start covering Bernie Sanders. Because they did. They showed up. It was about 1,000 people. And what it is, color blindness. CNN has Bernie blindness. They're like, we're very forward thinking, and so we don't even see Bernie anymore. Just do your fucking job, please. It's gotten to a breaking point. The nation's most trusted name in news is literally covering how someone's ponytail obscured a TV on a plane. That's what CNN's official Twitter account was posting at the same time there were 1,000 people outside their front door. And what do the CNN reporters tell themselves with thousands of people outside? Oh, look at those crazy people demanding we cover a veteran congressman who won the last 7 out of 8 primaries. Idiots. It's not like they're protesting for something crazy, you know, for more coverage for how evil space aliens are coming to get us and we should use lasers to disguise the Earth from them. They're not demanding coverage of that because CNN is already covering it. That is real. I did not create that. And it was posted to CNN's Twitter at the same time that the front of their headquarters looked like this. WTF, CNN.
Senator Sanders in Republican matchups does better than Secretary Clinton with Donald Trump and other Republicans in this White House race. He snagged endorsements from Communications Workers of America, the Working Families Party, Democracy for America, the National Nurses United, American Postal Workers. But these things are all but ignored by the flagship television newscast.
So this weekend, George Clooney decided to hold a gigantic fundraiser for Hillary Clinton. Actually, he held 2. First one was in San Francisco, and then on Saturday night, there was one here in LA. It turns out there was a counter-protest, though, which made for very interesting news. The ticket price for the Hillary Clinton fundraiser, if you're going to sit at the kids' table, is $33,400 a person. Now, if you'd like to influence Hillary Clinton in the right direction and you don't happen to have $33,000, sorry. Okay. Now, but as I said, that's just a warm-up. If you'd like to co-sponsor the event and sit at the adults table, that price tag is $353,000. How's that for a dinner? I hope that dinner is fantastic. I'd want to stay at that buffet for a long time. So it turns out, as Clooney's doing this, 6 doors down, Howard Gold, who is a Bernie Sanders supporter, decides, you know what, let's do a fundraiser where everybody comes in and gives 27 bucks. Now, we're going to raise a lot of money that way? No, but the point is to show the disparity, because that is the average donation given to Bernie Sanders. So Howard pays for the dinner, and whatever money they raise, they send to the Sanders campaign. But he had one other idea. Well, I'm 6 doors down from Clooney. Hillary Clinton's limousine is going to drive by. So he got out $1,000 bills from the bank, and they decided they'd throw it at her limo, because maybe then she'll pay attention, right? How foolish. $1,000? No, you have to throw $353,000 at her to get real attention, right? But nonetheless, they did it, and it was, you know, it made for an interesting video, and it got a lot of people talking. Let's watch.
We're in the money. We got a lot of what it takes to get along. We're in the money. The skies are sunny. Old man depression, you are through. You're done.
Okay, by the way, that was real money. It wasn't Monopoly money. And you could tell the neighborhood's rich because nobody's diving for it. Right now, we have a very rare live interview. That's because Bernie Sanders is in the studio. Senator Sanders, welcome to Rebel headquarters.
It's a pleasure to be with Rebels. I like that.
All right, so there's a lot to talk about. Let me get to it. Almost exactly a year ago, you were down only 59 points in the polls.
That was a good poll, actually. It's so worse than that.
And this week, you were within 5 points of Hillary Clinton. You've won 12 contests so far. So we're going to talk a decent amount about the media here, but one of the things that they say is, well, that's unrealistic. So now you just mentioned that all the other developed countries have single-payer health care and have all the things that you mentioned.
Right.
So why do you think that the media is saying it's unrealistic?
Well, first of all, let's start. We're talking about the corporate media, right? And by the way, let me, without trying to butter you up here, let me congratulate you. because we need to break through the fog of the corporate media, which does everything that they can to keep us entertained without addressing the real issues. I'm on the corporate media every single day, and you don't know how hard it is just to try to demand that we begin to talk about the real issues. They really do not want to. Talk about everything under the sun, but not the real issues. I think what you have is a corporate media, which by definition has conflicts of interest, right? Comcast owns NBC. It's probably one of the most attested companies in the country. Disney is a co-owner. They're paying their workers in Disney World $8 or $9 an hour, bringing in people from around the world to replace American workers. These are issues, the important issues that they don't want to discuss. Second of all, the model for media coverage right now is 6-second sound bites and an unwillingness to talk about real issues in a serious way. For example, climate change. I have to write a letter to the presidents of all of the networks to tell them that on their Sunday shows, they never talk about climate change. Almost never talk about it. Why? Well, does it have to do with the fact that they got a lot of energy, coal company and oil company money advertising? I think it does, but they don't talk about it. Income and wealth inequality. Do you ever hear really serious discussions of why the middle class is disappearing, the people on top get all of it? Healthcare. If you talk about real issues and people get educated on the real issues, you know what happens next? They actually may want to bring about change. And last issue on that, you think you see NBC talking about Citizens United? I don't think so. Television stations make huge amount. They love Citizens United. All the super PAC money going in.
Do you think that Time Warner and Comcast should have to disclose that they are among the top 10 donors to Hillary Clinton's campaigns throughout her career?
Yeah.
Because they're doing the debates, they're doing election night coverage, and they never say, hey, we're among Hillary Clinton's top donors.
Absolutely. Look, I think a focus on media itself, and I don't do enough of it. I try to, but it's hard to talk to the media about the media. They're not particularly interested on that issue. But, I think that point is right. But the demand has got to be for the media. And I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, these guys can't do it. That's why what you guys are doing, Tom Hartman and others are doing, kind of going around the system and using the new technology is extraordinarily important. By the way, we are in this thing to win. Please understand that. What is the Democratic establishment going to do for us?
Oh, that's interesting.
All right. For example, right now, you have a Democratic establishment which has written off half the states in this country. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
And they have given up on the state in the South, the Rocky Mountain area. Are they going to create a 50-state party? Are they going to welcome into the Democratic Party the working class of this country and young people, or is it going to be a party of the upper middle class and the cocktail crowd and the heavy campaign contributors, which to a significant degree it is right now? I've talked to Democratic Party leaders and said, you know what? Instead of going around and raising all kinds of money from wealthy people, why don't you meet in some football stadium and bring out 50 or 100,000 people? Bring the damn Senate in there, Senate Democrats, and start talking to people and ask them what they want you to do. How about that? Is that radical? So in other words, if I can't make it, and we're going to try as hard as we can till the last vote is cast, we want to completely revitalize the Democratic Party and make it a party of the people rather than just one of large campaign contributors. I think what we need is to create a movement which holds elected officials accountable and not let them flip on that issue. That's what you need to do.
If you win, is Hillary Clinton liberal enough to be in your cabinet?
Oh, stop getting me in trouble here. There are other people that I would probably go to before Hillary Clinton, people like Elizabeth Warren, for example.
All right, fair enough.
All right.
Bernie Sanders, thank you so much for joining us on the Young Turks. We appreciate it.
This state, on April 19th, this state will be having a very important primary. If there is a large voter turnout, we will win. And if we win here in New York, we are going to make it to the White House.
Our top story, the results in the New York presidential primary. The Associated Press now projects Hillary Clinton has defeated Bernie Sanders in the Democratic contest, and Donald Trump is the projected winner on the Republican side.
I just want to let people know not to freak out, that this is about progressivism. This is about the soul of the Democratic Party, and it's important that Bernie gets as many delegates as he possibly can going forward into the convention.
She has 57.9% of the vote. She'll pick up 175 delegates to Bernie's 106 delegates. Bernie had just 42.1% of the vote. You have to be honest at this point. Bernie's chances, his time is running out here. Okay, there's no more. I unfortunately can't come out here and say, oh, that's the bad news, but here's the good news. There's very little good news. Independents can't vote in the primary in New York. It's what's called a closed primary. Democrats can only vote for the Democrats, and Republicans can only vote for the Republicans. And if you're an independent, you're asked out. You just can't vote, which is really weird if you think about it, because there are plenty of people who want to vote and they can't vote in the primary. Now, second of all, to switch parties, you had to do it all the way back in October. So, again, if you don't think that gets in the way, hold on, because I'm going to tell you some personal stuff in a little bit where you'll go, oh, so you know somebody that happened to, and you're just one person. It could be the same case for many people. And then also, to just register to vote, you had to do it 25 days before the election. Think about how crazy that is. Because when I was at the polling place and I was voting, there was a guy who came up and he said, okay, I don't know if I'm registered. I don't remember if I'm registered independent or Democrat, but can you check to see if my name is there? So he told them their name. The polling workers go through it. They don't find his name. So they say, well, I mean, I guess you can do a provisional ballot if you want. And then the kid says, you know, come to think of it, I probably am registered independent, so... And then the polling workers say, okay, well, in that case, you can't do a provisional ballot, because if you know you're an independent, well, then we know it's a closed primary and independents can't vote in it. So then the poor kid had to turn away and go home. He wanted to come vote. He took the time out of his day to come vote. He gets there. He's not sure if he's independent or Democrat. And lo and behold, because of the stupid rules in New York, okay, well, now I gotta go and I can't vote. This is fucking democracy? This is what it looks like?
What about the Democrats? In Indiana, who do we expect to do well there?
Actually, that's another good state for Bernie Sanders, because an awful lot of people there feel as though their manufacturing jobs deserted them and the state to go overseas because of trade deals in past years. And so it's been a state where people have felt disaffection from the establishment Democratic Party, which they don't feel has stood them in good stead.
Bernie Sanders had a great night on Tuesday. He won Indiana in a stunning political upset, yet CNN had the audacity to actually ask him this.
Senator, just picking up on what you just were talking about, that's a totally understandable argument that the Democratic voters in all of the upcoming states should have a chance for their voices to be heard. But tonight we have a new political reality, as Jake was just saying, where you have a presumptive Republican nominee, and the general election for him is very much beginning. You said earlier tonight about Donald Trump, this is a man who does not have the demeanor, does not have the policy background or the ideas to become the president of the United States. So
absolutely.
Staying in this race, aren't you effectively making it harder for the Democrats to beat the man who you say would be so bad?
Well, you have already conceded the race for me, and I don't accept that concession. Thank you, Dana, but I don't quite agree with you. We are in this race to win. By the way, what we have done is excite an entire generation of people, working people and young people, who are now getting involved in the political process. I think when we go to California, when we go to Oregon, when we go to New Mexico, when we go to all the remaining states, and we have a serious debate on serious issues, I think it generates enthusiasm, gets people involved in the political process, results in a higher voter turnout.
And Senator,
Democrats win when the voter turnout is high.
And Senator, no question you're bringing new people into the fold, and you and your campaign also rightly often point out that you do well in open primaries like Indiana was tonight because there are independent voters. On that note, Trump's campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, said last week that their campaign is ready to bring in anyone who feels the burn and that movement that you have started into the Trump campaign if they're not inclined to support Hillary Clinton. I understand that you say that this is not over, and it is not over, and that you're going to continue down the road. But this is a very real thing that the Trump campaign is doing. And do you worry they might have success?
No, I don't.
That the longer he stays in the race, the more time he has to spread important messages about what we can do to save our democratic process, right? Yeah. So I like that he's remained in the race. I know that a lot of Democrats disagree with that because they feel like, he's taking away from Hillary Clinton being able to attack Trump. She has to still continue competing with Bernie instead. Whatever. Aww. This is still a race, okay? A possibility that it's going to happen for Bernie. I hope it does.
Certainly, Oregon is a good state for Bernie Sanders.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, and if you've never seen Portlandia, and I don't mean to characterize either Portland or the state of Oregon by that parody, but if you have any idea why they did that show, you understand that Oregon can deliver a very, very liberal vote. The only senator in the United States Senate who has endorsed Bernie Sanders is from Oregon, Jeff Merkley.
Thank you. Let me be as clear as I can be. I agree with you. We are in to the last ballot is cast. Let me also say a word to the leadership of the Democratic Party. And that is that the Democratic Party is going to have to make a very, very profound and important decision. It can do the right thing and open its doors and welcome into the party people who are prepared to fight for real economic and social change. That is the Democratic Party I want to see, bringing in people who are willing to take on Wall Street, to take on corporate greed, and to take on a fossil fuel industry which is destroying this planet. So I say to the leadership of the Democratic Party, open the doors, let the people in.
California is the biggest prize in the country in national elections. It's the biggest prize in the country in the primaries as well. And the California primary, as well as New Jersey and a bunch of other smaller states, are all happening on Tuesday, June 7th. 546 delegates at stake on the Democratic side. How is it looking? Well, depends where you want to start. Bernie has been surging. Everything has been put on California for the Bernie Sanders campaign to the extent that he still has a shot, which not everybody believes he has. There is a mathematical possibility, but of course it is not likely.
The largest trove of delegates of the Democratic race, the 2016 California primary polls are being watched with more scrutiny than ever before. Usually the state's massive cash is held off until nearly dead last to give smaller states more of a voice, but this time around, Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton are still unrelentingly pursuing the party's presidential nomination. Of course, with the California primary's impressive offering of 546 delegates, the election on June 7th will be tense. Despite the Super Tuesday-like number of primaries next week, the California race gets a particularly intense focus. A firm win for Sanders is the only way he can meaningfully regain traction.
June 7th, we'll see an absolutely massive number of Americans go to the polls to close out the Democratic primary. I mean, we're going to have, across the country, a number of states, huge amounts of delegates in New Jersey, and obviously the behemoth of California as well. And so they're going to be going to the polls, but unfortunately, they're going to be going without a real closing statement from the candidates, since Hillary Clinton has decided to renege on her promise to allow one more debate. Fox had been trying to set up a California debate before the final primary with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, and she thought, nah, don't really care about telling the millions of people in California, let alone in other states, where I stand, how I might have evolved over the past few weeks since it's been so long since we had a debate. And a spokesperson for her campaign said this: "We've declined Fox News' invitation to participate in a debate in California. As we've said previously, we plan to compete hard in the remaining primary states, particularly California, while turning our attention to the threat a Donald Trump presidency poses."
The first Fox News Democratic town hall held Monday night had its origins as a planned debate between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. But the idea was scrapped after Trump pulled out of the debate. Here's why I love this story with every fiber of my being. It's so typical of every single character involved. So you have Hillary Clinton, who was invited originally, along with Bernie Sanders, and Hillary Clinton's initial response was, "Yeah, Fox News, piss off, not doing it. Fuck you." And they're like, okay, well, Bernie agreed, so we're going to go with Bernie. And then they invited Trump to do a debate. And Trump's like, yeah, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I think I might do that, debate Bernie Sanders, why not? And then his staffers, or Trump himself, was like, dude, you might get your ass handed to you. And then they're like, scheduling conflict, I can't make it. I mean, debate the guy who knows policy in and out and can, and I can't attack by saying he's corrupt because he's not corrupt, and he can run circles around me on every other issue. Yeah, busy. I got something I got to do. What am I supposed to say here? I'd love to go and get my ass handed to me, but I can't, so I can't. So the entire time, Bernie Sanders is being Bernie Sanders. He's like, yeah, I'll come. Who do you want me to debate, Donald Trump? Sure, awesome. I can't wait for it. Oh, you want me to talk to Hillary or do a town hall or do a debate with Hillary? Yeah, whatever. I'll talk to whoever you want. Yeah, I'll come on. No problem. So the entire time he's consistent. He wants to get his message out, period, even to a Republican audience. Hillary's like, no, fuck off. I mean, now that you snub me and only want to go to Bernie and he gets more time, yes, I'll come. And Donald's like, yeah, I'm a tough guy. I'm a macho man. I'll debate Bernie. Why not? I'll beat that guy. And then behind closed doors, he's like, fuck, this guy's going to kill me. Scheduling conflict. I can't make it. It's quintessential Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton.
We have Senator Bernie Sanders in the studio again. So, Senator Sanders, great to have you on the Young Turks.
Good to be with you again.
There is a tremendous amount of buzz around the Bernie-Trump debate, as people are calling it. Now, I know Donald keeps changing his mind every once in a while.
Trump indicated he wanted to do it, then he didn't, then he did, then he doesn't. So we hope that he changes his mind for the 5th time in 2 days, and that he does come on board. The other thing that I want to say is, because it's kind of complicated, and I don't understand half of it myself, is you got all this delegate count out there, right? All right, so you understand this. Well, let me explain it a little bit to the viewers, if I might. There are pledged delegates. Pledged delegates are delegates you actually win. When we win in Oregon, we win a certain number of delegates who have voted for us. And then you got super delegates. Now, super delegates are a strange animal. They are part of the Democratic establishment. They're members of Congress. They're other folks. And the main point, I think, to be made at this moment about super delegates is, Cenk, 400 of them were on board Clinton's campaign before anybody else got into the election. How's that? Does that sound pretty crazy to you?
Yeah, no, they're the establishment, so that sounds about right to me.
That's the anointment process.
That's
In other words, we all say, hey, we are beyond you. Oh, there are other people running. Well, that's irrelevant. We're going to get you the money. We're going to get you the support. Problem with that is, not only is it undemocratic, what it does not take into consideration is the political reality of the moment. And the political reality of the moment, and this is the point we will make to superdelegates, is that every poll that's been out there, whether it's a national poll or a state poll, has us defeating Trump, often by big numbers. Here in California, we are ahead of him by 17 points, for example. And in almost every instance, by larger numbers than Hillary Clinton. In fact, there are some states out there where Clinton is losing to him. Pretty scary, and we are beating him. So the point that we're going to make to the superdelegates is, your job is to come up with the strongest candidate, the candidate who absolutely and definitively defeat Donald Trump. And we think the evidence is pretty clear that that's Bernie Sanders.
The one area where the superdelegates could be relevant, in my mind, is if there is an extraordinary circumstance. For example, if the FBI has a dozen agents investigating you and then you get indicted before the convention? Now, I'm not allowed to say that. That's what the rest of the media tells me. Shh, you're not allowed to talk about it. And what's interesting is you guys don't talk about it. So I'm wondering why you don't, because I'm pretty sure that if the FBI had a dozen agents investigating you, Hillary Clinton would talk about it.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because I'm running a different type of campaign, and because I think there's profound disgust with the political process as it now stands. And what I have done my best in this campaign is not to attack Hillary Clinton on a personal level. And what I think the American people want to see is a discussion about the issues that impact their lives. Okay? There are investigations underway. They will play out. All right? Believe me, they will be in the newspapers. I don't have to talk about them. If, and I'm not saying it is, but there's something like that were to happen, would that impact the electorate? Of course it would. And would that be taken into consideration by the delegates? Of course it would. We started at 3% of the polls. Now we're, relatively, we started where nobody thought we'd win one primary. We've now won 20 primaries and caucus, stand the possibility of winning half the bloody states in this country. If we don't make it, and if Clinton is the nominee, what will sadden me very much about the campaign between Clinton and Trump, both of them have very, very high unfavorable ratings. Over 50%, I think, right?
That's right. In one poll, Hillary Clinton is even losing to Donald Trump in unfavorables by 5 points.
So what you're going to see is people voting not for somebody, but very much against somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very depressing for this country. What we want, what I want, and why I don't get into personal attacks, I want people to be voting for a vision, something they feel good about, where they want this country to go. Look, one of my joys in this campaign is we have been attacked by the head of Verizon, we've been attacked by the head of General Electric, been attacked by a major Wall Street guy, we've been attacked by the head of Disney. So I think I'm doing pretty good. We must be doing something right. Look, here's the thing about Wall Street. The truth is, for all the right reasons, the vast majority of people, whether they're progressives, conservatives, Democrats, Republicans, they understand that Wall Street's greed and illegal behavior has done incalculable harm to this country, and they want a president to stand up to them. And we can do it. We can break up these financial institutions. We can create a new approach where our banks are lending money to small and medium-sized businesses, creating jobs, rather than just living as a world unto itself. So, yes, I am more than aware that corporate America and Wall Street are a little bit nervous about a Bernie Sanders presidency.
They basically privatize the gains and socialize the losses, right? So they take all the profits from oil, coal, et cetera, but the things that they put into the environment causes climate change, and we bear all the costs of climate change. We had a discussion about how you continue your political revolution if you win. As you pointed out, you get in, you get people power, you pressure Republicans, not ice-tea, but pressure to get real pragmatic change. Okay, now we have to discuss what if you lose. There is this groundswell now. Sometimes I call it a tsunami. There is a political revolution afoot. You talk about it often. Now, that energy should be used for great good.
It would be a terrible shame. It would be just very, very bad if that kind of energy was allowed to dissipate. Now, how you capture that energy, how you bring it forward in a constructive manner, how you maintain the momentum that we have is a complicated issue, because what we're trying to do, in a sense, has not been done. Okay? And I don't have, I'm going to be honest with you, I wish I could tell you I had, well, we're going to do A, B, C, D, and E. Well, first of all, as part of this process, it's not going to be me sitting around there writing all these things. It has to be people themselves, those people. You've raised the question, and together, if we don't win, and certainly we're going to fight to win, that's at the top of my agenda in attempting to answer. But it has to be done with a whole lot of folks.
All right, Senator Bernie Sanders running for president, as you all know. California primary is a couple of weeks away, and we're going to see what happens here. What happens to the political revolution, win or lose? Senator Sanders, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Cenk. Great. And I want to say a word about Cenk Uygur. Do all of you know the Young Turks? Okay. And this is why what Cenk and the Young Turks are doing is so important. We live in a world where the corporate media, the people who own our country, give us their definition of reality. And what Cenk and a few other people are trying to do is give us a different perspective on reality, the reality facing the middle class and working people, not just the billionaire class. And I thank Cenk very much for the very good work that he does.
This is what I call trouble. I'm about to start here. I'm told by the experts on numbers around here at NBC and elsewhere that come June 7th, the day of the California primary, which your candidate, I totally understand, wants to get to, and maybe have a chance of knocking off Hillary at that event, a big last hurrah, that at 8 o'clock that night Eastern time, the networks will be prepared, including this one, to announce that Hillary Clinton has now gotten over the top, that she will have won the nomination in numbers. It's done. What will that do to turnout? If that's 5 o'clock Pacific time, with 3 more hours to vote in California, who will be least likely to vote? Sanders people from 5 to 8 people, or Hillary? I've heard both theories.
Well,
I think will hurt your candidate?
Well, I think it'll depress turnout on both sides. Whenever there's no contest, I think you get depressed turnout on both sides. But it'll be an inaccurate description of the state of the race.
In a move that has outraged some and confused many others, on a day when no voting took place, no delegates were counted, the Associated Press last night called the Democratic presidential nomination for Hillary Clinton. This is on a day when no voting took place, but significantly for those of us who live in California, it was the day before we actually had an opportunity to go and cast our vote, as did many others in New Jersey and 5 other states. Total of something like 700 delegates were up for grabs, or are up for grabs today, but according to the Associated Press, you didn't bother. It's already cast, and this has outraged many. So this is what AP, and this is the foundation of the story, is this. This is what AP said last night. They said Clinton has 812 pledged delegates, 1 in primaries and caucuses. She also has the support of 571 superdelegates, according to an Associated Press count. The AP surveyed all 714 superdelegates repeatedly in the past 7 months, and only 95 remain publicly uncommitted.
Win here in California topped off an historical moment for the Democratic presumptive nominee, Clinton winning 56% of the vote in the Golden State. Reporter Craig Boswell is live in Washington with where the presidential race goes now. Craig?
Kenny, good afternoon. This is a pivotal time in the race for the White House. As you mentioned, Hillary Clinton has claimed her place in history as a presumptive Democratic nominee. But I just spoke to a Democratic operative who's skeptical, very skeptical, that Bernie Sanders is going to step aside so quickly. He has millions of supporters that Hillary Clinton needs. Hillary Clinton picked up wins in 4 of the 6 states that voted Tuesday and broke barriers in the process.
First time in our nation's history that a woman will be a major party's nominee for president of the United States.
Bernie Sanders' rally is happening right now. Now, he has not come out to give a speech yet, but there is a big crowd there. And apparently they started a couple of chants. I believe you're going to enjoy them. This is a Periscope from the event.
Chanting CNN sucks about 10 minutes ago. They said the same thing, and they called for the Young Turks, chanting TYT, TYT. Basically, they're calling out the mainstream media for the coverage of this election.
Okay, so I don't know who that was that shot that. We didn't shoot that.
I do. Her name is Brigida Santos. I actually went to college with her, so I know her. Yeah, she works over at RT now.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's not us saying it. That's an independent reporter saying the crowd was chanting TYT, and obviously, as you saw, CNN sucks. What's awesome about that is that CNN is there.
Ah, that's right.
That makes me, I feel a little bit bad then.
No, I do, because we're libs, so I feel a little bit bad about it. And
we feel bad because they did a shitty job covering Bernie Sanders' campaign. No, I don't feel bad. Do your jobs. Like, do your jobs.
I don't want people's feelings to be hurt.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I don't want people manipulating an election. How about that?
Right.
Yeah, both good concerns.
Yes.
So all the mainstream press is there. And so when I went to the rallies and I said, do you trust the establishment media? And everybody would go, no. And do you think they treated Bernie Sanders fairly? No. Right? So, and all the mainstream media is right there. They're on the rafters, and it's like kind of gets awkward in there, like,
I was standing, when you were up on, especially in Irvine, when you were doing that, I'm right on the press, right in the middle of them, you know, and I just couldn't help but laugh. You're saying I'm laughing, I'm looking at them, and they're kind of looking down and shit like that. They're not making eye contact, and it was fun. I love doing that.
It's when you shout that from the rafters, at least they hear you. So the fact that the establishment media is in there, the fact that CNN's in there, and they hear all the people chanting CNN sucks, and they've been told their whole lives that CNN is the liberal media, and then here is a room full of the most liberal people in the country saying, no, we actually think CNN sucks, we think you're the establishment, we think you're the corporate media. It shakes them a little bit, in a good way, like not in a bad way, nothing physical, etc. Like just gets like, oh.
And then we take our fight for social, economic, racial, and environmental justice to Philadelphia.
Yes! Yes! Fucking Philly, baby! We're going to fucking Philly! Yes! I fucking love this town! We are fucking going to Philly! We are going to Philly! We are going to Philly! We are going to Philly! Yes!
Barack Obama just endorsed Hillary Clinton as the Democratic nominee for president. And this is where we pretend that Obama and the entire Democratic establishment were not endorsing Hillary Clinton since day one. So let me tell you why I won't be endorsing Hillary Clinton. Because she'll say anything and change nothing. Oh, wait. Barack Obama said that. I'm sorry. The American voters can finally enjoy the spectacle of a pair of one-percenters fighting over who's a sexist and who's a woman. When this becomes a contest of which candidate has less negatives, we'll realize there's no positive outcome of this election. A female president is long overdue in this country, and Hillary is a great candidate if you ignore her record, duplicity, and the investigations in front of her. She is historic. Supporters say she's a great role model that proves a woman can be as corrupt as a man. It's considered progress when a woman supports war instead of a man supporting war. Where others see death, Hillary sees business opportunities. 4 out of 5 war criminals like Henry Kissinger and Tony Blair agree Hillary is the right choice for endless war. Hillary said she was the victim of a vast right-wing conspiracy, so she decided to join one. You know, it's not enough just to be a Democrat. Healthcare, education, climate change. If you didn't fight for the candidate who consistently fought for these issues, you probably never believed in them in the first place. Unity doesn't just mean supporting a candidate who isn't Trump. This movement extends beyond this election. Bernie Sanders won in so many ways. This victory will have far-reaching impact beyond this moment. Thanks to Bernie, we've shown our strength and our energy. This movement is going to be represented at every level of our country, from local to the state to the Senate and beyond. We true progressives now know who's for real and who isn't. We know who has guts and who are just conformists. We will stick together and change this nation for the better. Don't freak out.
What are you doing?
What am I doing? I mean, in California, it doesn't matter for me. So I have that kind of freedom, right? It's not going to go Trump.
It's too easy an answer if you think California doesn't matter. Then you're going to vote for who?
If California doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter.
I'm going to probably vote for the person I want to win.
So, get Dr. Jill Stein? Or
I will probably vote for Dr. Jill Stein or something like that in California. But if I was in a state where it mattered, which is what you're really asking me.
Yeah, if
which is what you're really asking me.
Yeah.
I have a theory, and here's my theory, that we are slowing down progress by electing neoliberals.
Hillary Clinton voted twice to extend the Bush tax cuts while she was in the Senate.
Okay, so that is going to happen.
She could get that kind of stuff done.
Yeah, don't delude yourself.
Progressive who gets things done.
So that's pretty devastating. On the other hand, the person she's likely to run against, if she's the candidate, is...
That was a horrible statement.
It's exactly what I've said in every previous election. If you happen to be, say, in Massachusetts, where we are now, which is a safe state.
For the Democrats.
So you can vote any way you want or not vote. If you happen to be in a swing state where it's going to have an effect on who becomes president, you should definitely vote. I mean, if you
So you're in Ohio this November, you vote Clinton rather than Donald Trump or Ted Cruz?
Oh, absolutely. Just as I would in 2000. I didn't like Obama, but I said exactly the same thing. There's a
So Hillary has your vote if you were in a swing state?
Well, let's put it that way.
Yes.
My vote would be against the Republican candidate. If you abstain, that means you're giving a vote for the Republican
Just out of
candidate.
interest, very briefly.
Now to the race for the White House. Hillary Clinton has dominated this week's news after claiming victory in the Democratic contest, setting her on a path to become the first woman to win a major party's presidential nomination. With only one primary to go in the District of Columbia, Clinton has an insurmountable lead in pledged delegates over her challenger, Bernie Sanders. But Clinton's pledged delegate count falls short of the 2,383 needed, meaning she will need to rely on the support of unelected superdelegates to officially secure the nomination at next month's convention in Philadelphia. But Hillary Clinton isn't the only woman aiming to be on the ballot in November. Jill Stein is moving closer to securing the Green Party nomination. On Tuesday, Stein won the Green Party's primary in California. She has so far won 20 of the 21 contests ahead of the party's national convention in August in Houston.
Can you respond to what happened this week? Hillary Clinton clearly saying in the Brooklyn Navy Yard before thousands of people that she has secured the Democratic Party's nomination.
This is kind of what many people have foreseen all along. It was kind of in the cards. The Democratic machine has very steeply tilted the playing field from the beginning by limiting the debates, limiting the exposure of Bernie Sanders, some very questionable election practices, 100,000 voters disappearing from the rolls in Brooklyn. Some very questionable things that happened in the Democratic primary in California, where independent voters thought they could just show up at the polls and cast a vote for Bernie Sanders, but were unable to by large numbers, and huge discrepancies between the polls in advance and the actual outcome of the election. So, you know, and needless to say, the superdelegates have massively tipped the playing field. And the announcement the night before by major news organizations that Hillary Clinton had already clinched it, you know, hard to call that just a coincidence, seems tailor-made for discouraging people from actually turning out and exercising their right to vote. So this is what the Democratic Party has done for decades, many decades, in fact. And after the election of George McGovern in 1972 as a peace candidate, I should say his election to the nomination of the Democratic Party, the party changed the rules to steeply tilt that playing field, creating superdelegates and Super Tuesdays that make it very hard for a grassroots campaign to prevail. And over the years, the party has allowed principled candidates to be seen and heard, but has at the end of the day sabotaged them in one way or the other, often through fear campaigns and smear campaigns, in the same way that Bernie is being called a spoiler now and has been for some weeks. Dennis Kucinich was redistricted and basically, you know, taken off the political map. We saw Jesse Jackson, the victim of a smear campaign. People remember the Dean scream that was used against Howard Dean as a peace candidate who was doing well. So in many ways, the Democratic Party creates campaigns that fake left while it moves right and becomes more corporatist, more militarist, more imperialist. This is why we say it's hard to have a revolutionary campaign inside of a counter-revolutionary party. That's why we're here as the Green Party, to build a place where a revolutionary movement can truly grow with a political voice.
A lot of people are wondering what's going to happen if Bernie Sanders is not the Democratic candidate. What happens to the political revolution that he's talking about? Well, I have a proposal. My proposal is that we continue the revolution. A revolution doesn't go, oh, cult of personality and a Democratic Party that is part of the establishment. We must now fall in line. That's the opposite of a revolution. We're trying to break that line. So my proposal is that we fix the system. So how are we going to do that? Well, hashtag Team Revolution. Here's what it stands for. Number one, we don't fall in line. We don't work for you. We don't work for the Democratic Party. We certainly don't work for the Republican Party. We're not going to actively campaign for someone because we have to carry their water. Your idea is fundamentally wrong. We fight for principles, not candidates. So if you are waiting for us to come to you because you have been chosen as the right candidate, you've got it exactly backwards. You have to come to the right ideas. Point number three, we fight for real change. Not incremental change, not, hey, wouldn't it be great if instead of starting 3 wars, we started 2 wars? Look, my proposal is an amendment. Because an amendment is the most real change there is. There isn't anything they can do about an amendment. There isn't anything Congress can do about an amendment. There isn't anything the Supreme Court can do about an amendment. If we say in an amendment, the money is no longer going to finance all of your elections, that is the end of the question. That's a real change. Now look, the Founding Fathers were geniuses in 1,000 different ways. One of the things they put in the Constitution is an ability to fix itself. They built revolutions into the Constitution. Remember why? Because they were revolutionaries. So it is incumbent on all Americans to fix the system as we go along. And right now we have a monumental problem. We privately finance all of these campaigns, and then unsurprisingly, those politicians work for those private interests. We need public financing of every single election in America, because those representatives need to represent us. And by the way, you know what? Corporations are not human beings, and no one outside of Washington, D.C. or New York thinks they are. There's not a single American who thinks, yes, of course, corporations are human beings, and they should have the constitutional rights of human beings. Here's the last rule of the political revolution. We stick together. They want to break us apart, and they want to make it a cult of personality. They want to say, oh, who are you going to support, candidate A or candidate B? They want to distract us. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to keep going until we get that real change. So stick together, understand what we're fighting for, and it isn't about any one election. It's about systemic change. Team Revolution.
This campaign has done as well as it has because we are doing something unusual in American politics. We're telling the truth. And the truth has to do with the reality of our lives as we experience it, not what we see on corporate television. And what is that reality? That reality is that we hear all of the time that we are a democracy. But the fact of the matter is that all of you know that increasingly big money is buying elections. When you have a handful of billionaires spending unlimited sums of money, you can call it whatever you want, but it sure is not democracy. In fact, it sounds to me like oligarchy. That type of drift toward oligarchy is something we must prevent. And that means overturning this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. It means moving to public funding of elections. But it is not just a corrupt campaign finance system that we have got to address. It is a rigged economy. And on next Tuesday, in a few days, here in Washington, you will be having the very last primary of the Democratic nominating process. It would be extraordinary if the people of Washington, our nation's capital, stood up and told the world that they are ready to lead this country into a political revolution.
Bernie Sanders got in this because it's a movement. This is a movement. It's not going away. It started with Occupy. Now we have a real person in power who's our champion. We've already won major victories. He's already shown them that they're chumps for taking their money, because you don't have to take their money. And you look at what you can do. You can become a real hero to the values you believe in. He's already won that way. He's already showed them that they're chumps, that they don't have to do it. So he's setting the platform for a progressive wave to happen, right? So he's already opened the door.
I believe that what human nature is about is that everybody in this room impacts everybody else in all kinds of ways that we can't even understand. It's beyond intellect. It's a spiritual, emotional thing. I believed it in my whole life, that we are in this together, not words. The truth is, at some level, when you hurt, when your children hurt, I hurt. I hurt. And when my kids hurt, you hurt. What this campaign is about is saying loudly and clearly, it is not just about electing Bernie Sanders for president. It is about creating a grassroots political movement in this country.
I can feel the burn, you can feel it too. He's the better choice, give us all a voice. Ain't no better man with a better plan. Give the 99 what we need this time. Come on, everybody, I wanna hear you say, come on, everybody, meet you on election day, meet you on election day. I can feel the burn, you can feel it too. Take our country back from the money few. They can't trump us now, let me tell you why. There are more of us on a better life. Come on, everybody, we're going town to town. Come on, everybody, to burn the system down, to burn the system down. I can feel the burn, you can feel it too. Take our country back from the bluegrass. I can feel the burn, you can feel it too. Take our country back from the cold grass. Come on, everybody, I wanna hear you say, come on, everybody, meet you on election day, meet you on election day. I can feel the burn, you can feel it too. Here's a better choice, give us all